started here on the recording. Hopefully a couple more will join. Just make sure this is working. Had an issue once or twice. Started here. Yep. Okay. We are in fact live. Morning, Andrew. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay, let's see. Ben is probably not in a good place to help with notes today. John, are you able to handle that?
I am taking notes, actually. I got my laptop here.
Are you? Okay. I didn't know if you'd be able to. Well, then I'll leave it to you. Anyone else is welcome to help out. I don't think we have any introductions today. All right, action items. I've got to write up this job description for Bob that we talked about for one of these champion sort of roles that we talked about, which is to do some analysis on our matching platform options and sort of help us craft a plan forward. Oh, and speak of the man, there is Bob. I was just given an update on the job description I need to write up for you. So I just started in on that. Unfortunately, I just ran into a roadblock because I was going to pull in I'd previously written up a detailed job description for e-NABLE Web Central with all the kind of developer requirements and all that. And that was on Volunteer Match. And it turns out that our listing expired and I cannot find a copy of it now for the life of me. So I'm digging through emails to see if I can find it in archive or something. So I'm still working on this for you, Bob.
Okay. I figured you were busy, Jeremy. So
yeah,
when I get it, I'll write a proposal.
My previous partner had written that up for me. I wouldn't even know how to write that description, but I will get the details needed from my other volunteer if I can't recover this.
Okay.
So get back to you.
No problem. No problem.
And then you're going to write up a Lumio discussion thread. Okay, this is tied to the same thing.
Yeah, when I get it, I'll write up
once you get the job description. Yep. Okay. Alexander, develop a process for capturing frequently asked questions, maybe leveraging Discord and sharing the FAQs in the Hub Wiki. So I'm curious, have you done any of that this week? Like, have you been like collecting
Yes,
maybe?
I did make the channel and I started filling it in. And then I started actually running out of possible frequently asked questions, but I just received another one, which is recommended printers.
Okay.
We have a template for that.
I do have a template for that. I can show you where that is.
Put it in the chat. And I also have a question regarding this, which is, how should we go about recommending to people things other than joining this community just for printing devices? Because that's currently not our main need, or at least that's my understanding.
You're correct.
Okay, so hold on. This Alexander, I'm putting this link in the chat for you. That's the typical guidance that we give for what kind of 3D printer. We're happy to modify that if anyone else has input, but it's pretty general. You know, decent sized build area, heated bed, etc. Some suggestions of things to look at. And I'm sorry, your other question, Alexander, was?
How should we go about recommending people when they join this community? A lot of people I've seen, they are joining to build devices for cases. They have no idea about cases, no idea about what's involved in any of that. And that's no longer our main need.
Right.
So
well,
how do we drive them towards other things?
I think that's a bigger discussion than we're probably going to have time for today, but we're trying to use the hub better to do some of that. I think Ben's done some great work in the way he's organizing and publishing these recurring monthly meetings, and that's making it more visible, these different working groups that we have that are not just about making devices. So I think that's giving people channels to get involved. We're starting to highlight some of those recurring things in our pinned posts better, and some of those needs have been updated recently in terms of, you know, that main pin post in our forum now lists several things that we're seeking. So we need to do more of that. And I'm not saying that's solved, but you know, if anyone else has any ideas, we can maybe have a brief discussion about that now, but that's something we could easily spend an hour talking about in and of itself. And I don't know we have time for that today.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it.
Maybe the place for that would be the posts in the hub. So I added some comments to some folks that asked about how to participate. Alexander, I see that you're active there too, which is great. So I think letting people know what they can participate in, just right there in the comment would be great.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, it looks like you already have what amounts to a list of frequently asked questions. Which
Are you talking about this link I gave to the Hub Wiki?
Well, no, I'm talking about the place you just, I think it's your chat bot, which has templates for these, for questions that come in through
Oh,
support.
okay. I mean, I don't think it's very comprehensive.
No, but it sounds like a resource and that it's related to what Alexander's taking on.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, maybe maybe it's something we can leverage. I had never thought about that, but yeah, we do have this mechanism here. We have this kind of a support knowledge base, which want to 3D print parts for e-NABLE, but not assemble them. Which 3D printer should I get? Frequently asked questions about the e-NABLE community. So I've got a number of these in here that are relevant, and we can add as many more as we like.
Is that a public URL that he can access?
Yeah, all of these are. I just have to find the URL to the actual public dashboard, which I don't want to waste your time as I find here, but I do have one, and I'll send that to you. In fact, I think it's probably just this support.shop30nerds.com. It's just because I'm authenticated, it's taking me to the admin, but that should give you to the public page for anyone else. And then I think it should be broken down into categories, with one being e-NABLE. Anyway, that's
Jeremy,
something.
The live stream is unlisted.
The live stream is what?
Unlisted.
We always
public.
do these as unlisted. Yeah.
Not previously, but okay.
I've always had these recordings unlisted. Anyway.
So the question of what's the difference in terms of having it be unlisted or public? I guess if it's public, it's something that would show up if somebody went to our YouTube channel.
That's right.
Yeah, if people were subscribed, they get a notification, and I used to get them. So you definitely had them public, the live streams themselves. Maybe you unlisted them afterwards, but they were live. I used to get notifications.
I don't know. I have always done these sessions as unlisted when we were hosting this normal Zoom meeting. So maybe I just failed to click on that when I did a live stream a couple times, but we've always kept them unlisted. If anyone wants to, we've had this discussion before and we decided to keep them unlisted. If you want to have this discussion again, I'm happy to do it either way. You guys just got to tell me.
Would it be helpful if they were public? Sounds like they would be. And would it be helpful for anybody else to get these notifications? It doesn't bother me if it's public.
I mean, the live stream itself could be public, and then when we close it, it can be unlisted. If you go to the e-NABLE YouTube page before, I definitely remember that I used to navigate it via the e-NABLE YouTube account. And now
history is.
I'm not too concerned about what we did or didn't do. I'm more interested in what we want to do.
Right. I don't see any reason not to make it public. I would even be okay about it being searchable. I don't know how much interest there would be, but it can't hurt.
I don't know if it lets me change that while it's going.
Yeah, maybe we start with the next one. But good point, Masby.
Yeah, I don't see the option. Oh, here, unlisted. So if I change this, let's see if it lets me do it live.
Ta-da.
Okay, it says public now. So whenever I create one of these, I always use the previous one as a template. So I'll try to remember to check that next week and make sure that setting sticks. And once I get that as the template I'm using, then I shouldn't have to remember that going forward, but I'll try to remember to keep them.
yeah,
public.
it did work. Now it's showing up as e-NABLE is live. So
Okay. All right. So we'll take that as an agreement going forward. We're going to do these as public so people get notifications. And maybe we'll do that with the rest of these recurring meetings we're doing too, if that's a valuable way to notify people outside of the hub. Maybe that's worth doing for all of our recurring meetings. Okay.
That's a fine default for an open and transparent community.
Okay. Let's see. You want to put your hand down, John?
Yes.
Okay. Jeremy, fix the newsletter archive in the hub. Well, I tried, I failed, and here's why I failed. I went to get the code from Benchmark, our email platform, and it turns out they changed things so that you no longer have the email archive function in the free plan that we're on. So we just no longer have this feature. So I simply removed it from the sidebar in the hub. We no longer have a newsletter archive. We do have links, to each individual newsletter. So if we want to build our own archive in the wiki, let's do that. But I did not do so.
We can do that.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
we
Do you want to do that, Ben?
Yeah, I'll add myself on for that action item. It looks like you're already doing it.
Sorry, yeah, I just did that. Jeremy, share the latest monthly event summary in the hub. That's done. So you'll see now in the main forum on the left sidebar, this month's e-NABLE meetings, and it's just an iframe embed of your newsletter, Ben. So each month, all we need to do is come in here, go to custom pages, and just edit that to put in the link for your latest newsletter, URL, and it'll update to that one. Got it, Ben? Okay, so that's in there. The February events are showing up nicely. And cross that one off, and cross this one off too. Jeremy, go live with new device catalog pages. I know I said I'd try to do this week, and I did try, so I fulfilled that end of it. I did again failed on getting this done. I went in to start working on it, and honestly, I started to get a little bit confused and overwhelmed, and had a hard time kind of figuring out exactly what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here. And I decided it's probably going to be better, Alexander, for you and me to have an interactive session on this, because it's not quite clear to me exactly how to take the pages that you did and what goes where, and exactly how to do this go live thing. I need a little help with this. So if you and I can find a time to meet next week, that would be very helpful. Ben, update Rich Brown's chapter spotlight. Still working on that?
I am, and actually this week has been sort of a focus on the project that Dean's working on. I had an interview with Grabiel, who runs the NGO in the Dominican Republic that partners with Dean and Ashish at the University of Southern Maine. So that project is coming along, but Rich is still in the queue.
That's fine. These things take time. Okay. Let's see. I don't have any.
Jeremy, before we move on.
Yes.
There is the one issue of the ticket that came into the help desk concerning.
Oh, thank you, Bob. I'm sorry. I forgot to add that to the agenda. I'm so glad you brought it up. Can you tell us about that? Because I did not have a time to even digest it.
Well, an individual working for, is it Flash Forge in Hong Kong?
Okay, it might be.
Approached us through the help desk saying they would like to have some kind of a partnership with us.
Okay, did they have any detail?
Can you go to the help desk?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
And read the ticket. It's the one that's still open. I left it open.
So I was thinking that Kyle Reeser would be a really great person to get.
There it is. Flash Forge 3D printers.
This one?
Okay. Yes.
No, this is an older one. They've reached out to us many times. So yeah, it's because I'm in the wrong department. Let me get into.
Okay, go to the one I use.
And
there it is, down open. See?
Down open. This one here?
Yep.
Okay. So
you see how I answered it, but you can see her original.
Flash Forge.
So I
mean, this honestly, this looks like they're generic. I'll bet you if I pulled up that one from a year ago, they probably use the same text. This is just what they send out to anyone that looks like they're involved in 3D printing to see if they.
That's fine.
So I mean, we can reach out to see if they want to do something, but I don't see this as like an offer to give us stuff or anything like that.
Well, I wasn't sure, and I didn't know if it involved some background of which I might not be aware.
You know what it probably was? They probably found their way to the enablingthefuture.org website. They went to the shop and they saw that we have other 3D printers listed there, but not the
Well,
Flash.
no, I mean, the sentence implies we were deeply impressed by the smile on the recipients' faces. I think they stumbled on a video.
Okay. All right. I didn't see that part. You're right, John. Yeah. You're right.
But that, that suggests that they are, it's more than a generic email.
You're right.
to
You're right.
to
This is not a
manufacturers.
generic email. Yeah.
Right.
So by all
Um,
means, let's see. Bob replied, thanks for reaching out. Pass this along to my colleagues. Thank you for your assistance. I'll wait for your team's reply, then look forward to
Yeah, I
cooperating.
not
Yeah.
knowing if there was some history, I didn't want to commit to even saying we'll discuss it. I just.
Yeah, no, I've worked with FlashForge. It was a long time ago, but I used to resell their stuff, and I don't know this person in particular, but they're very well liked machines, widely used in our community. I know, so certainly it's worth a discussion. I don't know what they have in mind, but let's find out. How do we do that?
So I have a few questions. Jeremy, you know these printers, you know the competition. Are you open to the notion that you might become a FlashForge provider? That's not critical. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm always open. It's not our forte dealing with these kind of budget printers, but
Interesting. Okay.
you know, we do offer Creality, which is in that class for sure. So it's something that I you know, like I said, we used to resell FlashForge, and the only reason that we dropped them was we found that there was it oddly enough, it ends up where there's a lot more support overhead on less expensive printers. So you're making less
Sure.
money on the printers and you're spending more
Sure.
time and energy on support. So we got out of that business, but that's not to say that I'm not open to the possibility.
You know, I wonder if also we can reach out to them and see what they could offer to regional chapters. I mean, if there's a possibility where, you know, they could be sending printers to some folks in Southeast Asia, that could be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, what they do have, like Creality, is volume. They have so many thousands of printers that to send a couple printers here or there would be nothing to them. So that's kind of worth exploring too.
Well, I would like to respond to them. And
Well, I'd say let's
Well,
get a Zoom call. Maybe
a few more
I-
points of
Yeah.
interest here.
Yeah.
Ben has suggested, I don't know if you heard, that Kyle Reeser and his relationship with Creality are good background for this. And Ben suggested that he might be a good liaison to FlashForge, but since he is bound to Creality, I wouldn't start that way.
they were a
No,
competitor.
it was more about talking to Kyle about his experience with Creality, just to
Yes.
get a sense of how we could approach FlashForge. And I do wonder if, you know, India is not around the corner from Hong Kong, but if there's been conversations to set up some model projects in India and they need equipment, that could be a bridge to explore. And again, asking Kyle, how did it work for Creality, and starting from there.
Well,
So I think
I mean,
the outstanding question is who would like to compare notes with Kyle and then reach out to Annabelle Hu at FlashForge.
well, but I guess I have another question, John. Do we even want to be bothered with this? I mean, there are a lot of people who make printers. They want probably access to our network to help sell printers. Is this something that we plain don't have time for or priority for? I mean,
I think
to
it's
drop
worth
everything and
exploring.
now.
I think it's worth exploring, Bob. You know, there are so many 3D printers on the market, and I get these kinds of inquiries all the time from, you know, people that sort of want to help with e-NABLE, but really, you know, they're just trying to get their name out there and everything.
Yeah.
And I always turn them away. FlashForge isn't in that group. You know, if there were, because what I think is relevant is, you know, how many people in our community are actually using them. And I think, you know, Creality and FlashForge and, you know, Prusa are the ones that come to mind that people are definitely using pretty widely. So, and I think just a discussion would certainly be worthwhile to see what they have in mind.
Well, then I'll just respond.
Well,
We
I mean,
could be interested. What do you propose?
Well, do you want to be the person to explore that, or is there someone else like in this group who would like to explore that?
and is it worth even mentioning maybe to them in the response? You know, we actually have one of our key volunteers that has become the brand ambassador for Creality. Maybe you'd like to explore something similar.
Well, that's right. I mean, the interesting thing about the Creality relationship is that last I heard, they weren't really following through with Kyle, but it was a really interesting model. And that's why I think Ben is right that someone should just get an update from Kyle and then either invite Kyle to reach out to FlashForge or reach out to FlashForge. I'm just saying, Bob, you could be the point person for this, but you don't have to be.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd rather not be.
That's
but,
fine.
But
Then let's just see if there is someone who would like to be the
But I'm
point
not
person.
sure I understand why we get Kyle involved, because FlashForge is a competitor to Creality, right?
Yes.
Well,
So,
right, but I think he might be able to give us some background on
But
the issues of dealing with a Chinese manufacturer like that.
well,
Yeah, and
that
he
could
speaks
be-
Mandarin, and I think he's would be open to sharing his experiences with Creality, and that might just give us a sense of what to do and maybe not to do.
Well, I can tell you that.
I agree.
This is again probably a bigger discussion than we want to get into today. I will just tell you that the one issue I do know of from my involvement with Kyle's partnership with Creality revolved around translation. Their agreement was such that Creality did not pass things through Kyle for review before publishing them. Their translators are not very good, unfortunately, and so they published things that, through not intentionally, but the way it was worded in English was very insulting and demeaning to the limb different community, and saying things that just should not be said. And again, it was not their intention, but that's the kind of thing that we'd have to look out for in a partnership with a Chinese company, I think.
Can I add a personal experience? I own a Creality printer. I've
Yeah.
had some technical issues. I bought it from somebody other than Jeremy because it was before Jeremy repped them.
Yeah.
And I can tell you the technical service could not be worse. It's horrible.
It's hard. And that's
And-
what I need to, so my customers now deal with me, but all I have to deal with China on the back end,
Oh,
and
it's
it's just
horrible.
a nightmare. Yeah.
And their content online is laughable.
Yeah.
Well,
it is.
and let's just put this into context. I'm sure in Mandarin, it makes a lot more sense. There's a
Absolutely.
lot of
That's why I
things
say
that
not
get
intentional.
lost in
Yeah.
translation, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure it's not intentional.
So understanding those sort of cultural differences, having Kyle's experience, I'll raise my hand to reach out to Kyle.
Sure.
Let's see what Kyle has to say and go from there.
So maybe Bob, just respond for now, saying that we are having internal discussions, and we'll get back to you.
We'll do it.
All right.
And Ben, as you know, I'm always happy to catch up with Kyle if you want me on with you.
Let's do that.
Okay.
You and me, we can do it.
Okay, here's our metrics. I won't spend much time on here because nothing seemed much different from the last time we looked at them. Got a nice healthy balance in our fund. Lots of good activity on the hub. So let's move on to that activity. I really like this part of these meetings, looking at the posts that got a lot of activity. So I expanded it this week actually to 3. Masvi posted about the unlimited arm being removed from Thingiverse, and there's been some interesting discussions on that, with the latest note being that one of our volunteers is reaching out to them. Sandra has sent an email over to the Unlimited team to ask what's happening, and she said that she will share the update with us here when she hears back. Anybody else know anything about this? Okay, interesting development. Don't know if that was removed on purpose or what's going on.
Masvi has been involved with that post. Masvi, do you have any updates? And actually, Alexander was also commenting on that chain.
No updates. I mean, I tried rummaging through their socials and everything. I have no idea. I don't think it's a Thingiverse issue. I've never seen this happen before, so I have no idea what's going on in the background. And they have never responded to me at all, Team Unlimited. I've reached out multiple times with the device color customizer and a few other issues. They've never responded to me. So
And
I
didn't even try.
I do have emails for both Stephen and Drew. Have you emailed them directly or just using the Team Unlimited address?
Probably just the Team Unlimited address. I don't know anyone there personally, so.
Okay. I will add their email addresses to this post and invite Sandra to pursue them that way.
Okay, I was a little hesitant about putting people's email addresses out there in a public
I'll
post.
use the mail technique
Okay,
in the hub.
I believe I've seen on that post another link to Thingiverse to a slightly modified ARM.
But those
Should
are
we just
generated
replace-
STLs.
Oh, was that one a full SCAD?
yeah, this was a SCAD file.
I've attached the open SCAD file in the post, and then someone linked a modified STL version, which is fairly useless.
Okay. Well, how does that,
And it-
I'm curious. So somebody shares a design on a Thingiverse. They share it with a specific license. In this case, if I recall, it was probably, attribution on commercial, Creative Commons attribution on commercial, something like that. So now they pull it off of Thingiverse, but we have a copy of the design. Do we still have the right to use it under that open source license that it was released on previously? Or does that like somehow revoke the license? How does that work?
I assume that you could even repost it with the same license, no?
It depends on the license. But if the license, unless the license stipulated that it's only live as long as it's on Thingiverse, it's fair game, but that's what licenses are for, to specify that kind of thing.
All right. So any other notes on that? Let's go to the next one. Yoav Medan posted a note that there's a documentary on Pbs Nova. We missed the documentary now. This was the other day, but there is a virtual discussion follow-up today at 1 p.m. Eastern. So whether or not you happen to see that, I thought maybe somebody might want to jump in on that virtual discussion. It's all about engineering better prosthetic limbs. So I just wanted to put a note and a link to that here.
So we do have the workshop today, the focus follow-up, but if somebody,
it's the same time, okay.
It is. So I'll be joining that, but if somebody else wants to join the PBS follow-up, that'd be amazing. I did see that it's streaming, so anybody, I think in the US can go to the link that I shared in the comment and watch the full film.
That seems like it's right up your alley, Alexander. Are you available?
Yes. However, I wasn't able to actually see the full documentary. Apparently, it's not available here.
The full documentary is viewable online at pbs.org/Nova.
Oh.
From the US. I'm not sure if that's the same case from Europe, so you'll have to double check.
And if not, I'm not convinced it's really that important that you have seen it. I suspect it's going to be an interesting discussion regardless, even if you're just a listener. Masvi, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to go back to the limited arm. So I just took a quick peek at the snapshot from Web Archive. So it was under the attribution on commercial share alike license.
Mm-hmm.
With that license, anyone is free to copy and redistribute the material in any medium or format, remix, transform, and build upon the material. Under the following terms, we must give attribution on commercial and share alike, but the licensor cannot revoke these freedoms. So we can upload the open SCAD file to the e-NABLE Thingiverse account.
That's what I was going to, yeah, maybe that's a good thing, because this way we can put it under the e-NABLE account.
Yeah, they don't have any legal footing to take it down.
And I
have not in violation.
I have the credentials for the e-NABLE Thingiverse account. Masvi, if you or anyone else wants to help manage that, I'm happy to share those with you.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that, but I think that if we don't hear back from them, then I think that's probably our next step, is just to make it available, and then we'll have to switch out the links in our device catalog to point to that new listing. So that sounds like a good option. All right, and then the other one I highlighted here was from Stephen Swift. He's seeking and this is interesting, he was seeking a print-in-place, already assembled hand design that he could use to test out his fancy new Formlabs Fuse 1 SLS printer. This is a really nice,
what?
if you're not familiar with, this is where you're, where it's basically encased in powdered nylon, and it's kind of going, so that you don't need supports or anything. You can print pretty much any geometry you need to. And as luck would have it, since I even responded to him to say, I'm sorry, we don't have any such designs, now we do, thanks to Alexander. So Alexander, if you want to reply to him, I think your experimental design might be a lot of fun for him to test.
Yeah, well, it would need different kinds of supports, but it would definitely work.
Well, you don't need it. I don't know if you're familiar with SLS, but everything is supported while it's printing, because it's just encased in powdered nylon. And then after it prints, you just get rid of all the extra powder.
Oh,
so
this is with powder, not with liquid.
Correct. This is SLS, not SLA. So yeah, you can literally print any kind of geometry you want.
I would have to modify the fingers in order to actually leave holes so that they are not completely filled with powder. But other than that, it should work.
Yeah, okay. So maybe if you want to reply to him, that could be an interesting experiment. What I was curious about is, with an SLS printer, those parts end up being, because of just the nature of the powdered medium, you end up with kind of a rough texture surface finish. And I'm wondering how well are those parts going to move? That's really what I'm curious to see. But it would be an interesting experiment. I mean, most people won't have access to this expensive technology, but I think that's I don't remember, the Fuse one is probably a $10,000 to $15,000 printer, but I'd be interested to see how it comes out nonetheless.
Yeah, I've never heard of that technology or was not aware of it.
It's more of an industrial type of 3D printing, typically. Yeah. All right, moving on. Got a lot of recurring meetings as usual. The one coming up today, as Ben mentioned, is our focus follow-up. What's the topic of the day, Ben?
Today is lower limb. We had a cancellation. There was a conflict, unfortunately, with Eric from Paraguay, so he's not able to join, but we had Dean, Ashish, and hopefully Graviel from their collaborations for recipients in device users in the Dominican Republic that is going to fill in, which is great.
Okay.
Ahmad is also in the queue. I haven't heard a confirmation from him, but he did originally say that he was available. But heads or tails, I think it'll be really wonderful to be able to look at lower limb devices, open source lower limb. And in the call, we should have Dean Brock, who's been a long time e-NABLE volunteer, Ashish, who's been working at the University of Southern Maine with a group of students to test the lower limb and the upper limb devices that Dean's been working on, the bionics, and Graviel, who is he's running a national organization in the Dominican Republic. He does have limb difference, and it's a lower limb.
Very cool.
So it'll be a great conversation, and if anybody is able to join, feel free.
Excellent. And there was one upcoming event that we noted last time. The Finnish Medical 3D Printing Network is doing an event in mid-March. There's a link there if you're interested.
A quick add-on to the regular events that we're doing. We had a device pilots meeting that was scheduled for Monday. There were some conflicts with the schedules of the device users. It's been rescheduled to Saturday, same time. I did get a confirmation today from Eric and the team in Paraguay that they've got 3 device users that they'll be talking with. One uses lower limb, one uses upper limb, and one uses attachment. So all 3 will be there. The conversation will be in Spanish, but we can translate it after the fact. So that's Saturday at 12 p.m.
Sounds good. All right. So moving into our discussion topics, we've been having a lot of talk about champions that we need to help us to move forward in certain key areas. And tied in with that, we've had a lot of talk about pursuing our next our internships. I think these are very much connected topics. So maybe we can have a little bit of discussion about these. I know, Alexander, we've got some discussion to have here under some possible discretionary funding, so we'll leave time for that. But thoughts about, I'll just start by saying I did update the pinned post on the hub so that these sort of champion needs are laid out there, at least briefly. We are going to do some more detail. That's what Bob's going to help with as soon as I can help craft some more of a job description for one of those. But anyone else have any further thoughts on kind of next steps for finding champions in these areas or bringing in our next interns?
We do have a handshake account. That's a pre-existing account. I think John Cho made it probably sometime in the past, I would assume. The information needs to be updated, so it would be great to figure out who manages that account. I did make a job posting based on the feedback I got from Masby, Alexander, and Andrew. But I think we're going to want to market it. Right now, we're only in 3 university sort of internship shopping lists.
So how do we get, I know there's many schools using this handshake program. How do we expand so that we're getting access to more of those schools with the same job description?
They're all within the platform. So you basically send a request to the university. So if we have a list of universities, maybe this is an action item for me. If I can look at all of our chapters and write down all the universities that we have, we can.
That sounds like a good starting place. Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of busy work, but that's why I get paid the big
All
bucks.
It
right.
does.
List of universities with. And then I think once we have that list, we should have that discussion of maybe somebody else helping to manage that.
And do
Okay,
we know, John, was it an account that you set up previously?
I'm trying to figure that out. It's school oriented, and when I enter Rochester
Yeah.
Institute of Technology, it doesn't recognize me. So
or
I
is
think
it
we need
this?
to
It
start from
says,
scratch.
it says employers and career centers sign in with your email.
So when I created an account for, Ben at e-NABLE.org, I looked at employers and e-NABLE was already there. So I created a job description for
Hello,
that
I got it.
existing employer,
It's me.
employer,
It's me. I'm
Okay.
going through the forgot password drill, but
There you go.
amazing. All right, we're on to something. So John, when we
Yeah.
meet, we can go through it and update it and go from there. I'll give you
Perfect.
the list and we'll send the
that's great.
requests to all universities. So sounds good.
All right, so in a meeting not too long ago, I don't remember if it was the last one or the one before that, we had some discussion about possibly a sort of a different way of making use of our funds to get things done that aren't otherwise getting done. And we talked about this idea of putting forth sort of job, I don't know, what do we call these? Bounties of, hey, this is what we need done and this is how much it pays. And then, allow people to take those jobs on for pay. And I think along those lines, at least that's my understanding, Alexander has some things to discuss today that he wanted to propose, under that kind of a model. So Alexander, should I hand over screen sharing to you? Do you have anything to share, or is this a talking thing?
It's mostly talking, and sadly my Wi-Fi just dropped.
Oh,
So
no.
I am on my network, which is fine. I can still use my computer, my phone just fine, but I can't share my screen from the computer. So that's unfortunate.
Alexander, do you want me to share the diagram we went over yesterday?
I don't even know how to do this. I
can do
did
it.
prepare a presentation, but I didn't share it, which is stupid. I should have shared it.
Can you get that link to John, maybe? Can you send him the presentation?
Yeah, just a second. It will take a second to actually pop onto Google Slides.
Okay. Let me hand over screen sharing to you, John.
Okay.
And I have to step away for a moment. I'll be right back.
I'm not sure how much that fits in the job description.
I think Jeremy merged a couple of topics. As I understand it, what you're going to present is not one of these job description models, but a discretionary funding opportunity for this group to consider, which is also fine. And you're on. I'm waiting for your link.
What Jeremy suggested, though, I think is a model that we haven't really introduced. And I think it might be a little confusing for folks that are oriented around this being a volunteer network. It seems like it could fit, but I do feel like it would be worth introducing it as such, putting things out sort of in a public forum. I don't know. What do people think about that? Because it's an interesting way of doing things, and it's different than the way we've done things in the past. It's been Lumio has had a process, but not so much in the hub.
So, Ben, we talked about this last week. And if I remember correctly, we sort of recognized that there are certain major functions that have never been well filled by volunteers. You fill one of them, and you stepped up and with some coaching wrote a proposal that we all embraced, and we've now grown very happy with and grown to rely on. Rather than wait for another good person to simply emerge. Last week, we discussed the notion that since we have money these days, we might take it upon ourselves to try to shape up a proposal in the absence of a candidate in order to be able to search for or find the right candidate inside or outside of the community. That was a grand scheme. If I recall correctly, we said, let's pilot that with one such, and that's where the discussion settled. And I don't think we've done it yet.
And I don't, when we
Jeremy,
had that discussion, I don't think we ever used the term bounty, which I use somewhat in humor, but I actually kind of like the idea of a bounty. I mean, you're putting a call out there to get a job done, and it kind of adds a sense of urgency to it. But it's worth discussing. It is definitely different, and it's not something we've done in the past. And there is a question of what kind of a precedent does that set, and is that going to affect those that are doing volunteer work and have invested all their time and energy without getting paid. And it's a lot to think about.
I wonder if if there's sort of these jobs or tasks that are posted centrally, and then people sort of raise their hand to do them, things that aren't getting done anyways by volunteers. That's one direction. And then there's also a volunteer saying, I can do X, Y, and Z, pick one, which is the post that Alexander shared. And there is a difference in the two models.
there are.
Do we do one? Do we do both? Do we do the other? What do you guys think?
But we already have a program for people stepping up and saying, I have a project. If it's
That's
an
true.
under $1,000 project, they use this forum. If that flies, they're good to go. In any case, they're welcome to post a proposal to Lumia.
Well, so
So
John makes a
that
good
is-
point. We already have this program. So let's let Alexander give his presentation under our current program here. He's suggesting something that would fall under our discretionary funding program. And depending on how this goes, we can then revisit the discussion of how do we allow for more of this kind of thing, maybe in these different ways we're talking about. Does that sound okay with everyone for this current instance?
Yep.
It would make most sense, yeah.
Okay, so Alexander, why don't you go ahead? John, in the chat, he put a link to his actual slides, which might be better than what you're showing on screen.
Yes, of course.
Hopefully that's actually accessible and up to date.
Okay.
I gotta say, it is so bizarre to see Andrew petting his cat when the cat is all blurred out.
It's a Cheshire cat.
That is funny.
It's a classic Cheshire cat.
I had no idea she was blurred out. That's pretty funny. That must look really weird. I couldn't see my
Yeah.
own camera.
Yeah, it's like you're petting a ghost. It was pretty cool.
Right, so I think you can just pop straight to the second slide. Right, so I don't even know how to introduce this. It's been on my mind for the past week continuously. Basically, I have figured out how to make a non-uniform scaling Phoenix with offsets, so with a couple parameters. And independently of that, I have created a print in place Phoenix with uniform scaling. And the print in place Phoenix I actually have, and you can see it on slide 4.
Okay.
So it comes off of the printer looking like that, but without the
Yeah.
threads.
Okay.
No other assembly, no nothing. It's just wiring it up. Which is actually quite fun, especially if the supports are appropriately done.
So what exactly is being proposed here then? I hope this isn't an insensitive question, but it looks like you've already done this work, Alexander. So are you offering to sell us your design? Or are you proposing?
Close.
Are you proposing
Close.
the work of documenting something? What exactly is on the table here?
A combination. I haven't completed it. I have proven that it works and that it can be done quickly. So I can have this done with parameters, with everything by next week. right now I just have a print in place Phoenix of 150% scale, no parameters, no nothing.
Alexander, just a question so I fully understand. It's printed just as one piece like I saw, and I guess you move the fingers and it breaks up the little attachments and everything.
It does print with some supports.
But
In
those
my
supports
case,
are-
I used
The supports would be modeled in, Bob, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. It's a model that you would load into Acura, slice and print. It prints all in one piece. The supports that he would model in would be things that you just break off and they're on the outside and that's it. It's
I
a
understand,
simple-
but basically, as you would have to move the digits because something must hold
Yeah.
the pins while they're printing, and that kind of snaps, and then it's okay, right?
Yep.
Now,
yeah.
does it work at very small sizes?
This is
For
printed in the
children?
smallest size available. So I believe that's the default 100%.
Well, I've printed down to 60 or 70, maybe 80%, 70 to 80% for a child. You may want to test it, that's all.
Yeah, sure. I mean, testing is part of the deliverable. If it doesn't work in testing, then yeah. Can I share what I'm seeing on my phone? I don't believe I can. I did take pictures and I was going to share them with the supports, but I guess that's not happening.
I think you do have, I think there is a share option in the, if you're using the Zoom app on your phone.
Yeah, you can definitely share from a phone with Zoom. I've done this multiple times to demo mobile apps.
Okay, just a second then, let me see.
I'm going to stop John's share first. There you go. Let's see what happens.
Share screen. Apologies if I randomly share weird things. There shouldn't be anything not safe for work, but you never know. Right, so this is how it comes off the bed.
Yeah.
It's at 45 degrees from the bed, and that has a lot of side benefits that are, well, I thought it would be bad, but it's actually better than the normal orientation. And this is with a couple of the pillars taken out. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yes. I saw a video of his prototype and the fingers flop quite freely when he moves it around.
Yep.
On that topic, I can actually just share video. There you go.
Hold on, let me spotlight.
And it's just fine. And this is one made with PLA with the normal design with the pins. So it's pretty much the same. The bigger concerns are, of course, printability with the supports, which turns out it's just fine if you use the correct angles. And the second issue would be the strength, which I have also solved by just having a very simple idea of how a print in place joint could look. It's not worth going very in depth, but basically everything is printed either as a bridge or at 45 degrees angle. So no drooping, that allows lower offsets, so on and so forth. John, can you share your screen again?
Okay.
So you want to walk us through your proposal then, Alexander? Kind of let's be specific. I see $1,000 figure there. What exactly is being proposed here for $1,000?
So it would be, on one hand, it would be a print in place Phoenix with uniform scaling. So that's just one scaling factor, but with corrected offsets. So the offsets would be parameters. This would be in Fusion. You enter the right scale, the offsets are automatically adjusted. So no more floppy fingers.
Let's be clear, when you say a design, we're talking about a new design being released under an open source license that would be considered sort of an official e-NABLE design, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to be clear on that.
And
Yeah, fair.
also to be clear, uniform scaling, it just means you get to adjust the precise percentage, but
That's
they have the same proportion.
Exactly. The other thing that I will be doing is, with this occasion, I also did some fancy stuff, and I also have a non-uniform scaling version of the Phoenix, of the normal one with the pins. So basically, you can scale it in any direction that you want, and it would correct the offsets. And you also have the possibility to set your own offsets.
Would that how many like what level of parametric customization are we talking about? Would screw holes be able to be kept the same?
Yes, and that is actually worth talking about in slide number 5. So
Okay.
the parameters are the 3 types of scales: length, width, and depth,
Okay.
the pin size, and the offset.
Okay. So that would not include screw holes.
No, because all of the other things are already modeled in the Phoenix.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
As
fair
it
enough.
turns out, the Phoenix is quite a sturdy design and doesn't need any parametric channels or anything like that, which makes the entire task very, very simple, actually.
Okay. Deliverables other than the actual designs themselves. We're looking at 2 designs here. What other deliverables do you have in mind, or is that it?
Of course,
Documentation?
documenting them, how to actually use them, and testing them. The important parts of this are the fact that this opens up popping the entire designs, both of them, in Onshape.
Okay.
I have already tested it, and I think Word already took a look around my design. As it turns out, using the same new workflow, I can also put them in Onshape with the same parameters. So I wouldn't have channel parameters because those are not needed, but I would have the offsets, which are the things that are needed most,
Yeah.
even for non-uniform scaling.
Okay.
But to
And
be clear, for $1,000, you're not offering to bring it into Onshape. You're agreeing to provide a documented and deployable version.
The stuff
release of
between the
these 2
bars, right?
Phoenixes. That's the stuff between the bars. That's right. Which has the
Yes,
added advantage that it opens up these 2 Onshape possibilities, as well as it is I think a really interesting test bed for what Andrew says he can't currently see a problem with, which is that the new Evo hand that we're working on would become a print in place device also, which I think is an exciting prospect worth exploring. This is a nice way of exploring it while getting some intermediate deliverables.
And I'm going to ask us to pause here just for a moment because we have a new guest with us, and I just want to take a moment to say hello to. I'm probably not going to pronounce this right. Shikshia, is that anything close?
Yeah, that's
Hello, Shiksha.
close. Yeah. Hi everyone.
Welcome. I'm glad you could join us. I just wanted to make sure we said hello to you, and because this discussion we're having here is actually going to lead up to a vote soon, and I'll invite you to be part of that because we what we're talking about here is something that we I don't know if you're familiar with, but we previously agreed as a community that this group here, that is whoever chooses to attend this town hall meeting, gets to vote on authorizing up to $1,000 in funding for projects that people want to propose. So that's what we're doing here, and looking at this effort that Alexander is suggesting, and then we'll decide in a moment whether we want to support this. So I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, so what else, folks?
This stuff is
Alexander?
magic to me.
Which stuff?
The ability to design something like this.
It is a little bit of
Stand
black
in
magic, I
awe
think.
of.
Yeah.
When I
Well, yes.
actually do the designs and when I release the workflow, it's at the same time stupidly simple, but everybody's just going to be really annoyed that they haven't thought about it.
Well, and Andrew, will this discovered workflow of yours be apparent as a result of this process also?
Alexander.
Yes,
That's
and
what I
I
meant
will
to say.
document the workflow for both cases.
And that's what kind of interests me here. And several of the people on this call have had an opportunity to see this, but it's worth mentioning before we take a vote here. We got a lot of people that have CAD skills. There's some good people in our community that can create models. But what I've seen again and again from Alexander is he has this amazing creativity in coming up with new and innovative approaches to the modeling that he does. And that's where I see the real value here. So I just wanted to point that out. This isn't just, throwing together a model. He really is innovating here.
I'm
Yeah,
in
and-
awe.
I've got a
Right,
quick
so-
question.
Yes, please.
John, you
Okay.
first.
I was just going to say, yes, it's very impressive. But I got to say, I support this also because Alexander has been doing this for the most part as an unpaid volunteer, putting in huge hours for a long time.
Yeah.
He's a keeper, and this just happens to be a case where he noticed that he was able to offer us quite a bit of bang for $1,000, and he stepped up to do it. If this was coming out of the blue from someone who, frankly, I didn't feel as indebted to, it would be one thing, but that's not the case. I think in this case, he's a proven quantity. He's done vast amounts of valuable work, and this in itself is valuable for, I would say, 5 potential reasons. And so
But
that's why I'm going to support it.
just to add to that, I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is some kind of a handout here, because now that I better understand where we're at and what would need to be done on this, Alexander is proposing what would be a big chunk of work for him. He would, if we approve this, he's going to go and put in long hours over the next week or so to get this done, which he probably wouldn't choose to do if it was just on a volunteer basis. So there is a very legitimate, exchange being discussed here of he's willing to take on a significant additional effort here to provide something of value if we want to fund it.
Ben, what did you want to get in?
I think it's really worth recognizing that there's a lot of different things that Alexander's been involved with in supporting the community, and it does connect to several of those things. So the collaborative design group, would this project allow that project to publish their work?
Well, it's not that it's going to allow us to publish our work, but it will benefit our project. I can see several elements of this that I don't want to get into a discussion here, but we will be having some discussion in our team about the on-shape path and the print in place Evo hand that he's showing there on the bottom right. There are definitely going to be side benefits, but it's not that it will clear all roadblocks for getting our project done. No.
How about we vote?
Yeah,
I want to mention something first.
Yeah.
Well, I want to mention a couple of things. The most important thing is, from my perspective, just from the technical standpoint, even though, as I said before, this is doable in a week and by next Friday I will have it done, I believe this is the biggest step done in the tech part of e-NABLE the entire community in the past year. Hands down, because it's non-uniform scaling. We've been looking for this since before I joined.
Yep.
And in a manner that's actually achievable by the common volunteer.
Yeah, and I was so excited that in our collaborative design team, we have managed to address this challenge, but I'm a little bit,
This takes it
aggravated
next
that-
level to on-shape.
I'm a little bit aggravated that you're beating us to the punch here, Alexander, and you're going to get yours out first, but hey, let's do it.
Did we give
All right.
Ben a chance to make his point?
I thought we did. I'm sorry. Did you finish, Ben?
The second thing I was just going to ask was, I know Alexander's really active in the hub, and it would be, I think, really important to identify what some of the documentation would be for this, because it's not just the output, but it's also a process. So making sure to have a post or a video or, publishing that work in a really
Can you
clear
go back
way,
to
I think
slide
would be
5
important.
there, John?
Sure.
Does that show deliverables?
No, that's just side notes.
No, you're in the wrong window now, John.
I'm working on it. Easy to say. Here we go. Okay.
I just think it would help to broadcast the work. I think sometimes there's really
It's just
wonderful
notes,
stuff that
okay.
happens within e-NABLE that people miss or
Yeah, so I
It's
do
lost.
think that I do think we should have deliverables clarified before we authorize $1,000. So I mean, that could just.
Should we take a few minutes and try to do it now?
That's what I was going to say. We can just put this, I'd prefer to put it into our workflowy notes if you don't mind, John. So can I just take back over?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let me share from here. And let's get this into our notes. So Alexander proposing 2 new designs, Phoenix with non-uniform scaling, Phoenix.
Print in place with uniform scaling.
Now, what else? Deliverables, documentation, video.
Documentation of the workflow, aka how these things are done. That would mean that I actually have the history in the Fusion files, but also explaining how and why it works, so it can be replicated in other CAD software.
What is the actual usage? What's the use case of this? If you have a Phoenix that has non-uniform scaling, is this going to be released in Thingiverse Customizer? Is it going to have to be done in Onshape? What's the actual?
Thingiverse Customizer doesn't use SCAD?
It does, yeah, it uses SCAD. So would you be able to generate a SCAD file?
I have no idea. I haven't even thought about it. This would be done in Fusion, both files.
In Fusion, okay. Well, so that does bring us back to the very same challenge that we're having in our collaborative design team. I mean, for right now, I guess what you would do is you would just release it as a Fusion file, and anybody that wants to take advantage of the non-uniform scaling benefits, they're going to have to go into Fusion and modify parameters and generate their STL files that way. Longer term, we can add it into our app maybe and let people get their files more easily. Am I right on my thinking with that, Alexander?
Yes. If you want added value, I can't guarantee that this is going to be done in 1 week. This might take 2 weeks, but at least for the print in place Phoenix, I have proven that I can make uniform scaling in Onshape. I am not yet certain about the non-uniform part.
Okay. So we're going to document the workflow. What any other documentation? I guess maybe we don't.
Well, clearly there needs to be documentation adequate for someone to make one. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if maybe that's a video tutorial, which is just, showing somebody, here's how you open it in Fusion. Here's where you click to modify your parameters. And here's how you get your STL files. That might be best.
I've got sort of a step from that. What about, Alexander, can I invite you to present at one of these focus follow-up workshops? That way you have a video, we have some advertising for it. We have some posts in the hub. Great. That would be perfect.
And I'll go this far because there's different ways of supporting our volunteers. And we're talking about funding this as one way of supporting Alexander, but I'll offer to help you with the video tutorial. I don't need any part of your funding here, but I will help you with that part of it. Once you're done, I can help to create that video tutorial, even though it's going to be part of your deliverables. I can help you get that done, Alexander.
What specific thing does the video tutorial cover? Using the file?
Yeah, people who are not Fusion users and want to make use of this for non-uniform scaling are going to have to learn how do I get into Fusion, open the project file, where do I get to the parameters, how do I get my STL files? I'm just going to walk them through that.
Can you write that in the task right there? Video tutorial of how the end user is going to use it. This is just in theory, but would it count as the same target if I happen to release them directly in Onshape instead of a Fusion?
I think it's the same problem persists. The user
Yeah, either would work. I would want to do a video tutorial for Onshape then in that case. People are going to have the same issue. Long term, I think the solution is going to be our application that we're working on, but that's a ways out still.
Yeah, granted, Onshape is web-based, so you can access it from your phone.
That's true.
Yeah,
And
the
that's
end users
the
wouldn't
vast
need
advantage.
And
Yeah,
you don't need a powerful computer. It's totally free licensing. Yeah, I mean, there's benefits there. True.
So I think what you're suggesting is it should say Fusion in the second bullet. Well, in the first two bullets, it should say Fusion or Onshape. If you
Yeah.
deliver both, that's nice, but I think one would be adequate.
There we go.
the backend for exporting Onshape stuff is very close to being deployed for a kind of test environment.
So
So
that
if
would
we
actually
had,
put us on a shorter path with the application too, then.
we've got a ways to go on the front end, especially like incorporating having multiple profiles and lots of stuff with that. But if we had one design ready to go that we want to expedite to exportability, we could very easily throw up just like a single basic web page that would connect to that backend, throw up the backend on a VM. It doesn't need Fusion or anything like that. That would be like $10 a month to host, and would probably only be like a full day or two of work to get ready to go. So if we
See, now
have,
that's why I was interested, and we don't need to get into it here, but in our next team meeting, I was going to say, hey, what should we be thinking about maybe using Onshape at this point for the Evo hand, and just, you know, rebuilding an Onshape to get around these licensing issues we're struggling
Right.
with. So that's a discussion we'll have.
So Andrew, are you confident you could do Onshape as a higher priority than Fusion?
Onshape already
Alexander.
works. It's just
Oh,
it's just
okay.
making a web page. Oh,
I mean, for this particular project.
you talking to me or Alexander?
Alexander.
Yeah, that's up to Alexander. If he can create the model
what?
in Onshape, then we're good to go.
I cannot promise that I can.
Okay.
So I have only
Then-
proven the applicability of the print in place one, not the
Okay,
non-uniform
so
one.
again, just to be clear about what we're saying, and remember, this is all recorded. You, I think under the proposal here, you're promising Fusion or Onshape, and we are expressing a preference for Onshape.
Yep.
Okay. Any other notes before we take a vote on this?
And remember that the video itself is documentation, which Alexander went through a lot of details already.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote then. All in favor of allocating $1,000 for the project we've just talked about and documented here. I'm going to go ahead and vote yes. If you want to hold up your hands or speak up if you're not on screen, you can use the hand thing in Zoom too if you want.
Yes.
Thumbs up from Ward, yes from Bob. Shiksha, how do you vote? I just saw a hand. Oh, there we go. Got a hand from Shiksha. Okay. And Alexander, you get to vote too. I'm going to assume you're voting yes.
Yeah.
So we have a unanimous approval then. I'm not going to ask about objections because everyone has voted. So this is approved. And I will leave it to you guys.
I also want to mention a very nice side effect. I'm sorry, I have to mention this.
Okay.
No more staircasing.
What does
So
that mean?
the Phoenix is very nice, but due to how it's supposed to be laid on the print bed, it suffers from staircasing. So it looks really
Oh, I see
bad
what you're
on the
saying.
top surfaces, right? That's not the case with the print in place. It's
Yeah,
just
true. It's being
gorgeous.
printed at an angle. Yeah. You know, it'd be really interesting, Alexander. Do we have people that have done some strength testing on these devices? They've actually built like air.
I have done, and
Okay.
if you want, slide 6 actually has a bit of documentation on that.
That's what I was going to say. If we can actually do an apples to apples comparison to see how they hold up one versus the other. So you've got some of that. Oh, here, I already have your slides up. So you're talking about this here?
Yeah, so the top piece is done with the one that I've printed, which is a weaker joint. The bottom piece is with a stronger joint. Long story short, I actually nearly threw my shoulder off trying to break it. So at least 20 kilograms of force, and it broke across the layer lines, not with the layer lines.
Okay.
I want to know how you design the joints. I'm kind of curious about printing that. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need pins or anything.
Well, the pins are built in. It's just there's a gap modeled into it.
Yeah, but yeah, so like, what's the
Yeah,
gap?
I do print and
Two
place
coats.
stuff like this all the time. You'd be amazed what printers can do. You can print very complex things with interlocking parts And it's able, because of the qualities of bridging and this, that, and the other thing, you're able to get away with quite a lot, and they work pretty well. So I'm not surprised that this works as well as what he's shown us.
Is that design's on Onshape? I'll take a look at it and copy it if I could.
It will
This
be.
isn't in Onshape, it's in Fusion.
Oh, it's in Fusion. Oh,
It's basically
like
two
a-
cones.
is there like a best practice? Oh, it's 2 cones. Okay.
Yeah, 2 cones, and make sure the angle is 45 degrees. So
But again,
everything
Ward-
is.
Part of the deliverable that he just committed to is documenting this workflow. So he's actually going to show you how he did this. You'll have that deliverable within the next couple of weeks, I guess.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and we had a vote on the chat from Evan, who also voted to approve. Thank you, Evan. So
Thank you.
even more unanimous than before. All right. Congrats, Alexander. You are clear to go, and we look forward to seeing what you come up with. It's a cool project.
And I
Alright,
gotta
by
say,
next
this
week
is
this should be fine.
it's a much more mature process than we've had in the past. So I bravo to everybody for
Yeah.
exercising this as a team.
Yeah, nicely done. So we did run a little long here. We got to wrap up in 45 minutes. We've got our, remind me, is that our focus follow-up?
Yep.
It is, right? Yep, focus follow-up today. So hope you can join us again in about 45 minutes, and see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.